While China is showing its force to Taiwan, there's concern closer home. China's misadventures in Eastern Ladakh moved from land to air. India and China held military-level talks on Tuesday to ensure that there is no breach of airspace. The talks were held in Ladakh and senior Indian Air Force officers were part of these talks. Sources have told NDTV that talks focused on demarcating areas more clearly to avoid airspace violations. But why were these talks necessary? This is because in end of June, there were reports of Chinese aircraft flying dangerously close to the line of actual control. While the friction in Eastern Ladakh is yet to be resolved, China seems to be indulging in more misadventures. That's our discussion this evening. But before that, a quick look at the recent points of friction between India and China. First of all, we'll start with the one in 2020, where in June, we saw the Galwan clashes, which claimed the lives of 20 Indian Army personnel. This was the same time when the Ladakh friction started. There were several friction points there, out of which there are only two there where we have seen disengagement so far. Meanwhile, since then, there has been only progress as far as Pangong Lake is concerned, and then, as I was pointing out, the other point where disengagement has taken place is Gogra, but there has been no de-escalation, and since then this friction in Eastern Ladakh continues. Even as the friction in Eastern Ladakh continues, what we are now seeing is these signals that China is sending with these aircraft flying very close to the LAC, for which this military level meeting became necessary. What signal is China sending? Is this a clear threat to India? Joining me now on the show, Brahmachalani, strategic affairs expert, Air Marshal P.K. Barbora, former Vice Chief of Air Staff, Andrew K.P. Leung, independent China strategist. Let me first go across to Andrew. Andrew, what is China up to? What's the explanation on the Chinese side for the aircraft flying close to the LAC?
Well, I think China's position has been very consistent, both on land and on air. But of course, in the air, the danger is much higher because the aircraft are flying at high speed, and the risk for any miscalculation is very grave. And that's why it's important for both sides to agree on certain modus operandi as far as the Air Force is concerned. Now, it is, of course, the de-escalation is the first step. I think that both foreign ministers in their recent meetings.
Let me go across now to Air Marshal Barbora. Air Marshal, has India perceived the movement of the Chinese aircraft close to the LAC as a threat? And is that why this meeting was called at the military level 3 days ago?
Could you raise the volume, please? I cannot hear you very well.
All right, sir. We'll fix that. For the meanwhile, let me then go across to Brahmachalani and I'll come back to you. Brahmachalani, is India perceiving this as a threat, especially since the friction in Eastern Ladakh already continues?
Well, what you call friction is actually military standoffs between India and China that have been ongoing for the past 27 months. Large numbers of forces from both sides are locked in tense standoffs. On top of that, China is carrying out aerial sorties and other aggression in violation of a 1996 bilateral agreement which prohibited either country from flying combat aircraft within 10 kilometers of the line of actual control. So, in a way, what we are seeing is that China is seeking to normalize hostile pressure on India. First came the pressure from land, and now, to augment that pressure, they're also engaging in aerial aggression. In fact, if you look at the bigger picture, what's happening is that China is playing the long game in the Himalayas through its frenzied buildup of warfare infrastructure, and actually it's also engaging in hostile actions. We have seen new security installations new roads, new helipads, new electronic warfare facilities, and dual-use border villages coming up right along the frontier with India. And this infrastructure is coming up in seized areas or disputed areas. So and I think the bigger concern that that we should take note of is the fact that that China is disregarding bilateral accords, is disregarding international law, and this aerial aggression is breaching a bilateral treaty which has a clear prohibition on flying combat aircraft within 10 kilometers of the LAC. So it also could be that through this aerial aggression, China is seeking to test India's aerial response by intruding into Indian airspace as it did over one so-called friction point, which actually is a Chinese seized area where the two forces are locked in standoff. It might have been seeking to test how India responds to such an aerial intrusion.
Yes, and as we have pointed out, while the friction in Eastern Ladakh continues, Brahmachalani, they're saying that China is trying to test once again India's response. Air Marshal Barbora, that's why I wanted to ask you, has India perceived this flying of Chinese aircraft close to the LAC as a threat, and that is why this meeting was called to get things in order, to ensure that India sends out a signal that any violation of the airspace is a complete no-go?
Well, firstly, let me
thank
you for having me over, and my regards to Mr. Chelani and the other guests and the news. Let me start. I'm not a strategic analyst or a geostrategic analyst for that, but I'm a pure-bred fighter pilot with 40 and a half years of flying experience. And I'll stick to the Air Force aspect of it. Now, let's start first. What is the LAC? On the ground itself, we are not very sure what is the actual LAC. The Chinese have their own perception, India has their own perception. So, that's a line which is not defined even on the ground. Now, how the hell do we differentiate in the air? Actually, what we have in our systems, electronic systems, etc., that via GPS or via inertial nav system, we would have marked it out on our display to say that this is the border. And that would be a display which is quite small per se, just about 12 inches by 12 inches, the biggest that you can have at this moment. You can well imagine a line drawn across plus minus 1, 2, 3 kilometers can be written off just by the marking itself.
But sir, till the boundary issue is decided, sir, we need to have some system in place where one country cannot threaten another, and in this case, of course, India and China.
I'm very sorry. You talk of Chinese wanting to do such things. They believe in it. Have a heart. 17 talks have been held till now. What have we achieved that actually, except for two areas in Pengongso area and another area?
Yes.
You think the Chinese listen to anyone?
All right. So you are suggesting that there is no intent there. Andrew, there's been disengagement in Pangong, but China has made a bridge there now, or at least is in the process. There are dual-use villages coming up close to Arunachal Pradesh in the eastern sector. There is hectic construction activity in Dhoklam, which may be in Bhutan, but critical for India security-wise. Is China even looking at de-escalation?
I am sorry, not after having constructed the infrastructure, the air infrastructure more so in Tibet area, Tibet autonomous area, which China claims is their own, and thanks to India for having agreed to the autonomy word to be used. We are unfortunately a soft nation.
I wanted to ask that question to Andrew because we're running out of time. Andrew, can you respond to that question?
Well, I think it's very clear to leaders on both sides, from the president down to the foreign minister, that both countries cannot afford continuing escalation. So I think that this is the directive top down But on the ground, as pointed out just now, especially in the air, it's very difficult to define actually what is the line of actual control up in the air. But I think that the crux of the matter is a lack of mutual trust. And I think rather than talking about the semantics, rather than talking about details, I think both sides should really come to the table and sort this out. The first important thing is to avoid any miscalculation or mishap, which could spiral out of control.
All right. There isn't only this threat that is emanating in Eastern Ladakh. There is another emerging threat. This is with regards to the docking of the ship in the Sri Lankan port of Hambantota.